Hey everyone. So when there is a cancer diagnosis in your family, do you talk to your children? And how can someone who has cancer still feel empowered? Right. So today, Eva is joining us, and I'm really excited to have her here. But what she's going to do is kind of take us on her journey. She's a beautiful storyteller. You're going to find out about that, and what life gets to look like when you get a second chance. So, hi, my name is Cheryl Bassett, and I'm founder of Unstoppable Connections, international bestseller, and creator of the award-winning Unstoppable Family Meeting Toolkit. I am also the host of the show, Kitchen Table Conversations, as part of the Edge Network and the Global One Network. Now, I get to share from my heart 4 gifts that really are everything to do with creating a foundation that's built on, that's unshakable and unbreakable, and that's built on trust for your family. So if you would like to learn more about my work with the 4 gifts and how to connect families, you can go to unstoppableconnections.com. And if you have an idea for this show or you'd like to be on the show, you can go to kitchentableconversations.com. Now, before we get started, I'd like to set an intention for every show. This show really does cover what I call the fun stuff to the tough stuff and everything in between, but it's all designed to ignite conversations, to strengthen your family, and to create a positive ripple out into the world. So what we do is we tap into, I mentioned the gifts, we tap into the 4th gift, which is the gift of love. And what we do with the gift of love is it's where we celebrate ourselves and others, and we unwrap it by choosing to celebrate the person who came here today with us to share. So it's with that open heart and open mind that we get to welcome Eva, her passion, her story, and the beauty that she brings into this world. So with that, let me take just a moment so you know a little bit more about her, and then I'm going to bring her on so you can meet her. Eva Grayzel enriches learning through the power of story. For over a decade, she traveled the country giving presentations and educator workshops on interactive storytelling techniques. A late-stage oral cancer diagnosis almost stole her ability to continue working. It's sort of ironic, right, for someone who is a storyteller. With a second chance at life, she transitioned into motivational speaking, telling her personal story and really of the patient perspective. And she did that at dental, medical, and nursing conferences. Eva is an author of 3 publications in the Talk4Hope Family Book Series. Mr. C, the Globetrotter. MC plays hide and seek, and we're going to get to see the updated version of that today. She's going to actually give that away, so that's exciting. And My Story Legacy, a 12-page guide to document personal stories, a gift that's as valuable as material possessions. She founded the 6-Step Screening Oral Cancer Awareness Campaign. So here to enlighten us with her story is Eva. Let me add her in. There we go. Hi, Eva.
Hi.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah. So, so you're the storyteller, right? And I love that. And I feel like it takes you back to childhood when you start talking about just storytelling. But tell us how you, touched on your journey just a little bit, but tell us about your journey and how it is you came to do what you do and why you're so passionate about where you are.
Well, when I was diagnosed with oral cancer, I never heard about it before. I didn't know you could get cancer in the mouth. I was completely illiterate. And when I got a second chance at life, I made some efforts to actually raise awareness so that what happened to me doesn't happen to other people. And one of the things that I did was I started 6-step screening, 6 steps to a thorough oral cancer screening. So these are the things that you should be getting at your dentist, and I educate about that. I also talk about the signs and symptoms. And that's one initiative. And the other initiative that is close to my heart is how my disease affected my children.
Now, just real quick, how old were your children?
They were 5 and 7 at the time.
Okay.
And oral cancer, unlike a lot of other cancers, is very public. You can't hide it under your clothes.
Mm-hmm. So obviously there were a lot of questions.
Yeah, and everybody was so concerned with the young mom, with me, that nobody thought about how my disease impacted the emotional health of my children. Nor did I, until, it became pretty evident that it did impact my children in a very profound and deep way. And I started to notice things. My daughter didn't kiss me for 2 years after I recovered.
Wow.
And I know why. She was very intuitive, and I know she knew she could lose me. And I believe she didn't want to commit to another day of loving me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, the kids they do take it in, and at that age, right? They're really in that stage of their core beliefs too. Develop them.
When I felt well enough, I took her for therapy. I knew there was a problem. But let's just say nobody knows my daughter as well as I do. She was very competitive with Jeremy, her older brother of 18 months. And one day I came up with this idea for a competition called The Smallest Kiss in the World. And Jeremy took my head so gently and he gave me this little eeny weeny teeny little kiss. And I said, oh, that was way too big. Elena said, let me try. And she grabbed my head like a football and she angled it just where she wanted it. She kissed. But I didn't even feel it on my peach fuzz. And I said, Jeremy did a better job than that. And she said, huh? Let me try again. She started to ask to play the game. And this is what put us on the road to recovery.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. What a great story. So, so how old was she then? Because how long were you in this?
5.
Okay.
She had just turned 5 when I was diagnosed.
And then your journey, and you said it was a couple years after that before she would give you a kiss. So she's what, 7, 8 years old now, or at that point?
It took a while, but it took a clever way to figure it out. She literally started to ask to play the game. So she wanted to too. It was hard for her. Trauma goes deep. Do you know that my son was looking for get well card? I mean, he was looking for a birthday card with my mother at a gift shop. And he found a get well card. And he said, Grandma, let's buy this for Mom. And my mom had to say, Jeremy, your mom isn't sick anymore.
Ah.
The trauma goes a lot deeper than you think. And I think that children are a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
They hear the phone calls, they hear the whispering, they hear the tears, they feel the stress in the air. They're very intuitive.
Mm-hmm. They're very intuitive. And that's why I've even said with parents, like, you may not think that you wear a superhero cape, but you do, because they watch everything that you do and they take it in.
And if these feelings aren't addressed, these children turn away in apprehension and avoid, and get used to avoidance of their feelings, which isn't healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But if they had an outlet, a way to talk about their feelings in a comfortable way, I always recommend an outside therapist, counselor, somebody. But sometimes a friend could play that part.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it's so important, because then, if addressed, your child will actually turn to that person with cancer with empathy and support. I mean, empowering them. They'll have skills, but they can't possibly if they don't understand all those feelings swirling around in their little heads.
Yeah. So did you sit down and tell them, or was it that you didn't want to tell them and then they realized it anyway? What was that conversation like?
I don't remember.
Interesting.
22 years ago, when I got that diagnosis, we celebrated our daughter's 5th birthday party before my surgery and after the diagnosis. And literally, it was a time of preparing. I was stage 4. We were preparing for the possibilities. I don't remember if we said Mommy is sick or Mommy has cancer. I don't even remember what we said.
But obviously the conversations around it became very important.
Yes, and I want to help parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and neighbors to be able to share a cancer diagnosis with children in a comfortable way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to share 3 reasons why it's really important to tell children. The first one is that you don't want to promote secrecy and dishonesty. That's a value no family wants to promote. So there is an age-appropriate way to talk about it with children. The second thing is that if you don't tell children, they could be forever angry at you because if something should happen to you, or the fact that you didn't trust them or wanted to confide in them, they could hold this anger for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And and if you should die, God forbid you should die, they'll have nowhere to place that anger. It'll live with them for forever. And the third reason is to recognize that it's actually an opportunity to teach the people we love and those around us what it means to be a friend, what it means to be family, what it means to be empathetic and compassionate, how to do it, what it looks like. I mean, if you don't even give them that opportunity, how are they to learn how to step up to the plate, how to be that child they want to be? And then when challenges happen to them or happen to a good friend, they'll know what to do. So it's a learning opportunity. And it's unfair to steal that from a child.
Yeah, and you made me think of, and this is certainly not at the level of seriousness of what you're talking about, but I remember one time my son came home from school and he was sitting at the lunchroom table, and the kid across from him, there were two kids across from him, and the one said to the other, "Hey, I'm really sorry to hear about your dad losing his job." And the kid's face dropped because he didn't know that his dad had lost his job. And he got teary-eyed and he said, "But man, does that really explain a lot?" Because he knew something was wrong at home. He was in tune with all of that. He knew, but he didn't know what. And it was actually harder, he said, not knowing what. Once he knew, but they didn't want to have that conversation. So obviously that night they got to have that conversation, but I feel like that's exactly what you're saying. Like, give your children this opportunity to be, because otherwise they sense something's not right anyway.
And then these children grow up learning that that's how they should handle their feelings, hide it, cover it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not like you did something to deserve it. It's life. Stuff happens. And it's not about what happens to you. It's how you cope with it. That's what leaves a lasting legacy to your children.
I remember one of my favorite. Oh, go ahead.
I was on a Sirius XM show, Dr. Radio, and somebody had called in and said that they had breast cancer, but it was stage 1. They didn't want to bother their adult children because their adult children had little kids. They were very busy. And I was shocked. I said, "You didn't even tell your adult children that you had breast cancer?" And she said, "Well, I knew I was going to get better and I just didn't want to bother them." And I felt like that was wrong. I felt like that wasn't a healthy choice to make.
No, because they might find out, and then they'll be like, "Why wouldn't you trust me enough?"
Propagating dishonesty and secrecy and.
I know one of the things I used to say to my boys, and I feel like this is exactly what you're landing on anyway with some of this, is that, you're never wrong for how you feel. It's just how you feel. It's really being able to open up and talk about it. Right? It's the gift, and that we all get when that can happen, that communication. By the way, I love opportunity to teach what it means to be a friend and to be family. And if you don't do that, you rob them of that.
Right.
And how important is that? Like always, but right now especially. Like, what does it mean to really be a friend and be a family?
So I wanted to share with your guests some of the changes that I made when I got a second chance at life to make our family gatherings more meaningful. And why wait till you're sick to do these things? So I'm suggesting them so that you do them today. Now, one of the things that we did was I got this beautiful charity box. And I got it. It's so beautiful that it sits on our kitchen counter. It's like always here. And I wanted the top to open up easily so we can easily put in dollars. I just felt that ashtray or just discarded change isn't really appropriate for charity. But we would use this box and pass it around every family dinner. And being that family dinners this year might be virtual, it doesn't mean that you still can't collect money and then say what it is you're grateful for. And the beauty of this tradition is that the adults would go first. So the adults share what they're grateful for. And when children hear that, when grandparents share, and then the parents share, and then the kids share, what they share is a little different. It's impacted by what they heard. So rather than telling your child, you should have been grateful for that gift, you should have done this, been kinder to that person. Instead, the parent says, I'm so grateful for a friend who does this for me, or I'm so grateful that we have food in our fridge and we have safety, we feel safe in our neighborhoods. And when parents share those things, kids listen. And they start to recognize the bigger picture of their life. And they do it through giving charity, which is a value. It's not a learned human thing. It's not an innate human thing. We have to learn how to do that, how to give to others. And the giving isn't for the other person, actually. It's for ourselves.
So true.
To reach that higher place that we can make a difference. And that's a very empowering feeling. It makes you feel important. And everybody, no matter what stage of life they're at, even if they're a child, they can make a difference in someone else's life.
Yep. Yeah, very powerful. I love that. So the first one is when you got a second chance, you did a charity box. What were some of the other things that you did when you said you got a second chance?
One of the other beautiful things is I started to bless my children every night. Now, I didn't want to rob them of faith, even though I questioned my own. And I did this blessing because it was one-on-one at night in their own beds when they got after their drink and the book and the bathroom and the hugs. I would put my hands on my child's head and I would say, thank you for blessing me with my son, Jeremy, who, and then I'd praise him. I'd say who's so conscientious of his friends' feelings, who calls grandma without being asked. And then I would follow it with something I wanted him to work on. Help Jeremy find the strength to share more easily with his sister, to remember to lift the toilet seat. Whatever it is I wanted him to work on. And the beauty of that is that I wasn't telling him, why don't you lift the toilet seat? I'm so sick of sitting on your urine. Instead of yelling, instead of telling, I was asking the powers above to help Jeremy find that knowledge. And it really opened up the bridges of communication. So when I shared something I admired in him, it is so important, Cheryl. It is so important that we praise the people in our lives. It is so easy to criticize. Don't ask me why. Why is it?
Yeah, why is it?
Yeah. Easy to criticize the people we love and need most. Our kids, our spouses, our coworkers. Why is it? Why can't we actually double duty on the praise? In other words, do like the sandwich, praise, then share the criticism, and then praise again. So this praise was allowing Jeremy to hear what I saw in him that he may not have known about himself. Do you know, with all those kids in the world, if we could praise them so that they see what it is people admire in them, this world would be a happier place.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, yeah. And, it's very easy to look at what you want to see change. But man, when you can really start, and that's staying in gratitude, right? because there's so many things you can look at and just be grateful for around your children, and then that can be the praise, obviously, that you're giving them. So that's beautiful.
I'll tell a little story. One day after I blessed Jeremy, he said to me, "Mommy, who blesses you?" Oh, wait. So this, if I didn't bless him 3 nights in a row, he'd start yelling up to me, "Mom, you had parent-teacher night, you had girls' night out, you had date night with Dad. What about me?
Where's my blessing?"
It became a real tradition. It was important. In fact, after I blessed each of my children, they felt everything they needed to feel to go to sleep. Bedtime actually took 5 minutes instead of an hour and a half. Why? Because they felt safe, they felt loved, they felt blessed, they felt warmth in their heart, and they went to sleep. But one day Jeremy said, "Mommy, who blesses you?" So I told him the truth. Nobody. I said, if I go to the synagogue, which I rarely do, the rabbi, well, he does this overall blessing and everybody's blessed. Jeremy said, "What? That's it?" Jeremy put his hands on my head and he blessed me. And I learned something profound. It doesn't matter the age you've attained, the education you've acquired, the profession you practice. You can bless and enrich other lives. And after he did that, and it meant so much to me, I would ask him sometimes, "Jeremy, I'm feeling a little down. Can you bless me?" And then it took another step when we were at our table for holidays and my parents or my husband's parents came. I would ask my children to put their hands on their heads and bless them. In the Jewish tradition, there's a tradition that parents bless the kids. And I always wanted that for myself, but we just never did it. And now my children were able to do it for my parents.
How beautiful. Yeah, I love it. That's so beautiful. And I'm like going, okay, I have grandkids and I can certainly bless my kids now, but I can also start blessing my grandchildren, right?
Because you can do it on the phone.
I'm getting a whole bunch of them. So
you can do it virtually. It doesn't need to be in person.
Yeah, because actually 4 of them are in Colorado. One's in Columbus and I can see her, but then one's in England. So we're all over the map. So definitely virtually.
Yes.
But that's beautiful.
And one other thing that I recommend when we were talking about the charity is for grandparents like you, Cheryl, is when you give money, which a lot of people are going to do this year, just send a check. I recommend that you say to your grandchildren, in this check is an extra $5 for charity. I would like you to pick the charity and to tell me where you've chosen to give it. And that really gets a child to start thinking, if, now that I have $5, where am I going to give this money? Is it to animals? Is it to homeless? Is it to, who do I choose? And then you can have a whole discussion. Why did you choose that? Why is that important to you? I'm so glad I'm having this chance to learn more about you and the things that you love. And it's really an opportunity to connect. So for healthcare providers, I always recommend wear pins. Like if you love Disney or if you have supported breast cancer and you have a pin, or autism or Habitats for Humanity, whatever it is you do, whatever organization you support, get a pin. Because what that does is when you see other people, that pin alone can connect you with them. Somebody may say, "Hey, well, what's your connection to autism?" And you might say, "Hey, I support the organization because I have a grandchild who has autism." And then suddenly the other person might say, "My son is autistic." And suddenly you and that other person have made a connection, a deep connection that you would not have had if you didn't, have this pin. So put it out there, whatever organization you support or your child or, your grandchild tells you they're supporting, try to get them a pin, have them put it on their backpack and it'll help them actually connect with other people in a beautiful and important way.
I love that. So, and I just want to say this because I feel like some parents might also try to, like, when the kid says, I want to give to this, they might say, oh, you don't want to give to that. Like, be very cautious about, like, whatever it is that they got excited about, just let it go. Like, be okay with it. It's just their choice.
Be okay. Ask if you don't understand why.
Ask why. Yeah. Because I think sometimes parents want to go, oh, well, you know what? You should probably give to this charity. I could just see that happening. And that's what we call don't quack the duck. The duck is the idea. We don't want to shoot the duck, kind of thing. Let your kids just offer. And then if you don't understand it, like you said, just seek to understand it, then not try to guide them.
My children decide where this money goes. I always ask them. In fact, Cheryl, do you make donations? Do you write a check out to, I don't know, the fire department or, whoever you want to support? As a mother, when your kids were little, did you ever share with them when you wrote the checks?
Well, one thing we did, which was a little bit, not the checks, no, absolutely not. But there were a couple times we would actually sponsor a family, and through that they got to be a real active participant.
That's cool. We did that too, and I do remember it being very powerful.
It's very powerful. Yeah.
One of the things that parents miss out on, and grandparents, is that when you write a check to an organization, you've chosen that organization for a reason. So share that, hey, today, for the holidays this year, at the end of the year, I write checks out to organizations I care about. And I write to the fire department. Do you know why? Because this is what happened to my friend. Her house burned. They saved the dog. They risked their lives. So I want to support my local fire department.
Yep. That's beautiful. That's great.
And I also support my synagogue. And my kid might say, why do you do that? You don't even go there anymore. And then I have a chance to say, yes, but if anybody in my family should die, or if I needed support in some way, if I
still know that it's there.
When I got sick, my synagogue, who I wasn't even that active with, people came out of the woodwork to bring meals to support me. So even though I may not be active, it was important for me to be a part of a religious community. I recognize the value of being a part of communities, no matter what community it is. And then that community I typically support. So these are stories I can share, and it makes children think. I'm not telling them who to support. I'm just sharing. This is why I love to support this organization. Actually, one of the things that I published was a story legacy. And one of the pages in that book, and you can find it on my website, is a page of charities you support. I mean, do you know, Cheryl, that if my children had to write a eulogy about me, it's all in there. Just pick up that booklet, and you'll know all my important stories. You'll know my values. You know the charities I support.
It's nice. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, I just put up on the screen for anyone who wants to go. It's evagrayzel.com, EVAGRAYZEL.
Spelling like my hair.
Yes, exactly. Because sometimes people listen to this on a podcast, and I want to make sure they get it correctly. So you can reach out to Eva. We're almost at time. Actually, we are at time. And on the second chance thing, well, we close out with a dot. And I mentioned this to you before we got on, that we do a dot, which is a drop of thought. And it's really like a pearl of wisdom. So if you were going to leave that parting thought with the audience, what would you want that to be?
I would say that it's human nature to lament your losses, whatever they may be. And it's a skill to recognize your gifts. Throughout my ordeal with oral cancer, I never lost the ability to make a choice. And if you choose to face whatever your life challenges with strength, you can turn adversity into opportunity. It's an opportunity to leave a legacy of choosing courage, choosing gratitude, choosing moments to cherish with your family.
Beautiful. Well, I feel like there's a lot of dots in there, people. So I've like grab that one and latch onto it, because there was a lot of beauty in there. So thank you so much. Like, I love everything you shared today, and even like some things that I get to do now too. So thank you so much for that. And you know, I do close out just by sharing my dot, which is really my heart about you know, really what I want to see out in the world. So, you know, because ripples don't flow in, they flow out. So if we really want to see that change out in the world, then it starts with us, it starts in our own homes, and it starts with our families. So, you know, go spend time with your family, do some of these beautiful things that we talked about today. But just remember that it's not just what happens at that kitchen table, that maybe for that time, it's about how we all get to show up in the world. So thank you so much for being here. Such a blessing. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.